Welcome to the Portfolio Institutional ESG update. I'm speaking with Martina Macpherson about social bonds as instrument to address the COVID-19 pandemic. Martina presides the Network for Sustainable Financial Markets and is Senior Vice President, Strategic ESG Partnerships and Engagement with Moody's in London. Martina, first question, how can social and sustainability bonds provide investment opportunities to address the COVID-19 crisis?
Social sustainability and most recently SDG-linked bonds have emerged as mechanisms to address public social funding gaps, such as healthcare and community services. They are seen by investors and issuers as credible instruments to potentially improve private and public sector preparedness and to enable resilience building in times of crisis. Most recently, Vigeo Eiris highlighted, though, that the S in ESG is sometimes described as the small s. This is reflected also in the comparative lack of social investment tools in the market. There is an abundance of low carbon and energy transition indices and instruments. In fixed income, the market is also dominated by green. COVID-19 has revealed to investors why social and societal issues are fundamental to corporations, to sovereigns, and to build macroeconomic resilience.
Martina, can investors and issuers of social bonds clearly identify social and sustainability projects tackling the COVID-19 crisis?
In early April 2020, the International Capital Markets Association, ICMA, issued a communication to its members confirming that existing guidance for social and sustainability bonds is immediately applicable to address the COVID-19 crisis. What does that mean? It looks at eligibility. Examples for eligible social projects under that framework can include COVID-19 related healthcare and medical research and development of vaccine, investment into additional medical equipment or manufacturing facilities to produce more health and safety equipment and hygiene supplies. There should, though, be especially a target or a specific group directly impacted by the virus outbreak, although they may also seek to support a wider population affected by the economic crisis. Other debt instruments, such as catastrophe bonds and pandemic bonds, are also being assessed by investors, the insurance sector, supranationals, and policymakers. However, some researchers have noted that catastrophe bonds modeling is and remains problematic, as it requires implicit knowledge of the issues and it lacks a speediness of response.
Can the COVID-19 crisis assist investors in assessing systemic ESG risk, opportunities and impact?
The current COVID-19 crisis amplifies the urgent need for more municipality, state and sovereign investment in social and healthcare innovation, technology and infrastructure, and for public and private partnerships. So there is a need for financial capital being deployed to support other interrelated social services, such as elderly care and remote education, to ultimately foster long-term socio-economic development, growth, and better resilience.
But how can this be done effectively?
Good question. Previously, many sustainability bonds focused on addressing risks posed by climate change, as we'd highlighted. And while issuances for green, social and sustainabilities were expected to hit a combined record $400 billion by the end of the year, up to 24% from the previous year, there is now a need and a necessity to address and assess social issues at scale.
What happened so far in the sustainability bond market?
The COVID-19 crisis has decreased market demand at present for green, social and sustainability bonds, with forecasts from, again, initially 400 billion down to 225 billion, according to Moody's latest research. However, the slump in demand is actually foreseen to be temporary. Social and sustainability bonds, however, remain comparatively stronger as issuers focus on pandemic response efforts. Moody's forecasts that the market will remain at a $100 billion mark by the end of the year.
Martina, do you have any examples for social bonds financing the fight against the pandemic?
A key example for addressing COVID-19 issues through a sustainability bond is, for instance, Pfizer's recent $1.25 billion issuance, which will support environmental projects, but also make COVID-19 medicine and vaccines accessible to vulnerable populations. So many of these recent relief bonds have been from national actors, such as the African Development Bank, the European Investment Bank, and the Inter-American Development Bank. In late March 2020, the Nordic Investment Bank issued also a €1 billion response bond to finance projects that alleviate the social and economic consequences of the crisis.
Martina, what's the role sustainability bond assessments must play to identify and avoid pandemic washing?
The issue of greenwashing has been heavily debated, especially in the context of green bonds over the last few years, leading actually to new regulation, the EU Green Bond Standard, which is asking for mandatory second-party opinions, verification statements ultimately, as part of the green bond verification process. However, issuers and investors remain concerned about the definitions and the nuances between green, brown, and shades of green, and ultimately the risks of greenwashing.
This means second-party opinions are crucial in this process.
Very much so. Second-party opinions provide an assessment of the issuer's green bond, or in this case, social bond framework, and they analyze the greenness or the social factors of eligible projects or assets.
Where do we stand in the discussion about greenwashing?
Greenwashing is in the process of conveying a false impression or providing misleading information about how a green bond or a social bond is delivering its benefits and impact. For instance, that's what's set out in a second-party opinion. Members of the high-level expert group at the European Commission had suggested options to address the issue. For instance, introducing an obligation for issuers to report on the alignment of their investments with the Paris Agreement, or developing empirical research to ensure that green bond issues boost their green capex plans above market average. However, to date, these ideas have not really come to the fore. A mandatory green bond second-party opinion can hopefully help to address certain greenwashing issues. However, the EU Green Bond Standard is unfortunately voluntary in itself and just covers the green taxonomy. Hence, certain information biases will remain.
But can the measures against greenwashing stand as raw model in the case of pandemic washing?
As highlighted earlier, ICMA just issued guidance for use of proceeds, social and sustainability bonds. In the context of the COVID-19 crisis, the challenge is now to identify, monitor and assess which and how eligible projects can meet their social expectations to ultimately avoid pandemic washing. In a nutshell, the COVID-19 crisis is exposing ESG laggers and leaders. from an issuer and an investor's perspective. So for all stakeholders, it is now all about being prepared and making your decisions future-proof. Second-party opinion assessments can hopefully help to provide further clarity and more oversight.
Martina, two final questions. Do we have any idea what the fight against COVID-19 will cost, and what share of this burden can be financed by anti-corona bonds?
Good question. The COVID-19 crisis is up and foremost an economic crisis, with associated costs for investors, businesses, and society at large. Give you a few examples. In 2002 and 2003, SARS spread virtually unchecked to 37 countries, causing a global pandemic, infecting more than 8,000 people and killing roughly 750. There are estimates that put the damage from SARS at anything between 30 to 50 billion US dollars. Big numbers, but a drop in the ocean compared with global GDP, which even then was worth 35 trillion. The coronavirus is spreading at a rate 6 times faster than SARS, mostly through human contact between individuals that are not even showing symptoms. So it's expected that the disruption is greater than caused by SARS, especially as the two largest economies, China and the US, are already in an economic recession, contracting, and are ultimately deeply impacted. Social and sustainability bonds will be able to address some of the expected arising challenges. However, this requires a commitment from the entire investment value chains to set the right incentives and to address the situation at every moment in time.
Martina, thank you for having time. This is the Portfolio Institutional ESG update with Martina Macpherson. We have collected background information on this topic for you. If you enjoyed this interview, subscribe to this channel and visit our website.